Welcome to this episode of the Video Creator Show. I am Grant, here with Victoria Fradkin. She is a co-founder of Social House Films. This is a very high production value horror channel on YouTube. They make horror short films, and they are super creepy, super well done. They can make chopping a carrot seem just oh so spooky and suspenseful, and it's a beautiful thing. Hey there, you probably know the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com. What is VidChops.com? Well, it is an editing service that will take the horrible burden of editing off your back. We all know editing, video editing, it's tedious. It takes forever. But what if you had a professional who did it for you? You go to sleep, you wake up, it's done. Wouldn't that be magical? VidChops.com. Hire a professional, save yourself time and energy, and take your YouTube channel to the next level. Victoria, thank you so much for joining me today. You are clearly a horror genre expert. Is that a good word? Enthusiast? How would you describe yourself in relation to the horror genre?
Well, Grant, thank you so much for having me. I was really flattered when I got your email, and I would say that I'm definitely a horror enthusiast. Horror enthusiast, that word was always a little horror enthusiast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of started falling in love with it when we got started with the YouTube channel close to 3 years ago now. And it's just so fun to dive deeper and deeper and find all the nuance in horror storytelling. So I'm an enthusiast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it shows through your work. And these videos do so well on YouTube. I mean, they have millions of views. And some say that there isn't room for high production value on YouTube, or there is, but it's like a secondary thing. It's always said texture over polish. I think you managed to do both very well. Could you describe your style? So for somebody who hasn't seen any of your short films, could you describe your style to them?
Sure. So I would definitely say I mostly call myself a storyteller first. So we're always putting story at the absolute first and foremost of our brain. And then, we're working with pretty lean budgets because we do work relatively quickly. So, we kind of look towards YouTube and sponsorship income to help fund each of these shorts. So when you're working that quickly, you need to, stretch that budget quite a bit. And that being said, we make sure to focus on what's the story we want to tell, and can we tell that with good quality within this budget range? Because a lot of new filmmakers, they get very excited about telling a new story, and they want to put all these frills and camera movements and different location company moves, all these bells and whistles into the story. And I think that's great if you have the budget, but when you're on a lean side, you just need to really sculpt down to what is the nugget of the story. What's the truest, most haunting part of this story? What's the conflict? And then really lean into that the best you can. So I think that if anyone were to check out our channel, they would notice that we don't try to tell too much. Our shorts live somewhere between 4 to 9 minutes usually. And we kind of just try to find one very haunting, creepy element within that story and just exploit that and pull that tension for as long as we can. And, we put a few fun magic tricks in there. So that's what I call them whenever you're doing like a horror gag. But yeah, I think that people would see a well-sculpted and simple yet still very creepy short film if they check out our channel.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And so can you walk us through what it was like starting this channel? Because now it seems like you kind of have things streamlined. I mean, you have sponsors and you have a way to monetize this, that you understand how all of that works. But when you were first starting this channel, did you just make some films and post them and hope they did well? Did you have a plan and a budget and funding? Like, what was that like, kind of getting off the ground?
Sure. So our very first short horror film is called Bedhead, and that one was actually a camera test. So we were just testing out the new camera package that my now husband purchased, and we were doing the test partly to test the camera, but also to test tension building, because when you're crafting within the horror genre, building the art of the scares, a lot of that is building tension. So we wanted to tell a fun story that was really short, something we could do at home with just us, just the two of us. And it was helping us prep for a movie, a feature film that we were going into. So we do the test. I think it took 2 nights initially. And then we realized, we were still a little bit green in that territory. So we're like, we need to do it again. So we did some reshoots on the third night. So it was ultimately 3 nights of shooting. I think that short film lives about 4 minutes long. And it was completely just homebrewed. So it was, the equipment that we already had at home. I think some lights that we got from Home Depot, just like those large like party lights or like the big floodlights. Any like gaffer DPs listening to this cringing right now, I promise we've upgraded our lights. But and then I was the actor, and then I did the special effects monster build, which was on my husband, who there were these like 12-inch long like spider claws that I put on him. And so he had to try to use that and then take off a claw just to like hit record and whatnot on the cine camera. So it was really fun. It was a big learning experience. And then we loved the short still turned out well. And we were like, this is pretty cool. Like maybe we'll just put it up. Maybe we'll just see if people enjoy it. And I'm telling you, the YouTube community has been amazing. So the moment we put it up, it was just like started to snowball and catch views and more views and all these really kind compliments in the comment section. And that, like I was saying, that was just a camera test. So we felt very welcome in the YouTube space, and we pretty much couldn't stay away after that. So now we started being like, okay, how often can we do this? Can we do 1 to 2 shorts a month even? 2 was really aggressive, and we were able to get into that during the pandemic because, we were sequestered at home. So we didn't have any distractions, and we were able to get quite a bit of videos out during quarantine. But, on average, I would say we do aim for like 1 short film a month. And that's pretty fast because now we do have a tiny team that we hire and usually bring in some more actors, and, the stories are more living in the range of like 7 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. And how many subscribers did you have when you posted Bedhead originally? Because you have 3 videos that you had before it, but it seems like they were mostly kind of trailers or like just kind of a proof of concept, kind of demo reel type videos, but they weren't like officially films. So I'm curious how many, there is 1 film. Sorry, just want to make that clear to those listening.
Oh,
but
yeah,
how many
short film,
subscribers did the channel have originally?
I want to say, I know it was less than 100, maybe more than 40.
Wow.
So it was about,
Wow.
I want to say it was 48 subscribers when we started with Bedhead.
Mm-hmm. And so did it take off with the algorithm? Were people sharing it? Was it kind of both? Like, how did it grow exactly? Like, how did people come to see it? And right now it has 2.7 million views. It did very well.
It did very well. Yeah. That one was really cool because we posted it, and then I don't know if you're familiar with this other mega channel. They're called Crypt TV. They're gigantic. It's Eli Roth's company. He's part owner in that. And we got an email in our business account saying, hey, we'd like to post this on Crypt TV if you're interested. And we were like, yes, we're very interested. So we shared that video with them. So it posted on not only on ours, but on their channel. And they had at the time, I want to say like 1.5, if not 2 million subscribers. And then that, kind of helped boost us. And it really just felt like it was off to the races at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Getting support from larger channels is always amazing, right? I mean, it feels good. It's validating. It's helpful. It's just, it sounds like your come up was very positive overall, whether it's the comments, the support from other channels. That is so lovely. And in a funny way, seems like a contrast to horror in general. Like, you're putting out these like purposely horrifying films, and then everybody around it is like really positive and sweet, and I love the juxtaposition there.
I know, I love it too. That whenever you meet horror buffs, they're usually like the nicest, friendliest. They have the craziest imaginations. I love my horror community.
Mm-hmm. And what is your background in? I'm guessing it's in film. Did you go to film school? Like, what can you kind of walk us through how, like, what you were up to in the years leading up to your successful YouTube channel?
Sure. I actually went to school for marketing, and I only did that because I couldn't figure out how to make a living as a filmmaker when I was that age. So I'm from Maryland, a small town in Southern Maryland. I went to Towson University. And, I thought, well, at least if I went into marketing and PR, maybe I could work on commercial sets, like perhaps there's something there. And so that was what I started doing right out of college. I got picked up for like a tech accessory startup company. And that was a great time because, anything that's a startup, it's a very lean team, very hungry team, and
Mm-hmm.
you get to learn, you get to wear many, many hats. So I felt like I learned a lot there. And it was just a great like baseline for, if you want it, you got to like work, 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 work. So that was my starting job. And then I moved out to California as a marketing consultant where I would sort of do the same job as a consultant for other small companies. And eventually, you're kind of doing okay with that. I was starting to understand brand development and how to build a company. And I wanted to be in entertainment. I lived in Los Angeles. So it was just a natural like step in that direction to be like, okay, it's time to just try to make a real go at this. And right around that time I had started writing. And that's when I met, who's my now husband, Aaron Fradkin, and my business partner. He was directing a music video that I went in for, and then he brought me on as a producer for a short film that he needed a producer for, and that was it. I've been producing ever since.
Mm-hmm. Well, let that be a lesson to everybody that just because you don't major in film or like go to school for something directly related to your dream, like it can still happen in a more roundabout way. Like I suppose this isn't how you imagined it would have happened growing up, but clearly it's working out very well. What advice do you have for people who maybe they even went to college for whatever their dream is? It could be film, it could be even business, starting their own business, but they haven't quite hit their stride yet or found that kind of success that is validating their dream. What advice would you have for somebody in that position?
Totally. I mean, I would say it, keep at it, even if it's a tiny something in that direction every single day or as many days as you can allot. Like, really stick to a goal for yourself. The most frustrating thing is going to be waiting. I wanted this film career back when I was in my early 20s. I want a bigger film career for myself now. You're always wanting that next big thing, but think about your future self and give your future self all of this hard work now. So every day, can you be making other connection? Can you be working on your writing? Can you be auditing movies that already exist and trying to understand what your role in that creative space would be? There's always, like, seriously, there's always a way to be learning. YouTube is obviously a wealth of information and learning. And I'm not ashamed to say that, like, a lot of my learning came from YouTube. When I was learning special effects for our movie, a lot of that came from the YouTube education fields, or trying to figure out YouTube algorithms so we can better our channel. A lot of that was researching on YouTube. There's so much available information. It's like, it's just up to you to make the time and the commitment.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to appealing to the algorithm, like your channel, it's obviously very creative. It's not something that is necessarily piggybacking on trends. But like, is that so? How do you? I mean, you have the in ASMR film. I mean, that does seem like it kind of following a trend,
Yeah.
Was that kind of a calculated decision, or, I mean, obviously there was some creative inspiration there, but usually it seems like you make films just on what you think would be cool. But how
Mm-hmm.
often do you feel like you release something, not just because you like it and you think it's going to be dope, but because it's kind of trending right now? So in this case, ASMR.
Mm-hmm. ASMR is definitely a strong example of us getting excited by a trend that was already out there, and then being like, oh, I can think of something pretty creepy to tell within that space as well. I think ASMR did pretty well. It didn't go off to the races like some of our past ones, like Ballerina was, we kind of,
450,000.
yeah, not too shabby there.
Mm-hmm.
The the algorithm with YouTube, we do what I assume many other companies, small and large, do. We just look at who's winning, and then we try to figure out how they're winning. And we try to take whatever lessons that are publicly available. So we were looking at larger companies than our own, like Alter or Crypt TV. I mean, like, okay, what hashtags are they using? What does their thumbnail look like? Even when we had licensed Bedhead to Crypt TV, they had given us a little bit of information like, oh, can you brighten your thumbnail? Can you give us different thumbnail options? And, a thumbnail might as well be a movie poster, so we took that information and thought, oh, that makes sense, brighten the thumbnail, even though, that you want the cinematic image to be dark and moody like it is, you need different screens to be able to see the monster, see whatever they're going to be clicking into. And so we use that straight away. That was an immediate lesson that we took. Also, the titles, we don't get too crazy with the titles. We try to just keep it very concrete and succinct to what it is. You want that click. You want that click and that view so people can get to know you and check out your work. So really, any which way I can get someone to click and watch this work that I've poured so many hundreds of hours into, I'm down.
Mm-hmm. And what is there an average production process for these films, or does everyone look very different? Because you said right now you're posting about once a month, and I mean, a month is a good amount of time. It's also not that much time when you're talking about something that is really unique and kind of having to almost reinvent the wheel every time, so to speak. But what does a process look like for something this creative? Because most YouTubers I interview, a lot of their videos, they're not cookie cutter necessarily, but they kind of have a formula. Do you have something like that you stick to? It seems like you're pretty much you make it up new every time.
It feels like it feels fresh every time, but we do try to live within some barriers just to stay on track. So our writing process, that is the part that's the most question mark. You do your best to summon something creative, something you think is worthy of what you're about to pour all this time and energy into. So the writing process is a little bit more fluid. We try our best to get the scripts done as fast as we can. Usually one of us who has the nugget of the idea will take the lead on writing it. So I, for example, would take the lead on writing the first draft, and then Aaron would come in, fresh eyes, and polish it up, and kind of also, because he directs, he also can put revisions down in a way that makes sense for how he's going to direct that project. So that's just a way that's really going to help us streamline later in production. So we write the script, we cut out any fat, anything that's not absolutely essential. Don't waste your time on it. So it's really just the meat. Then pre-production is pretty fast. Once we feel like our script is locked, probably less than a week of pre-production. And then, so we got that. And then it usually takes around 3 to 4 days to film. And I'm talking 12 hours of filming plus, a little bit of lead up. So you're looking at 16-hour days for probably 4 days to shoot the film. Then Aaron immediately gets into editing, and he probably will edit that for 2 weeks. Then he has to move into sound mixing. And we have this fantastic friend of ours who lives in Miami, and we'll kind of be talking to this friend and sending him screenshots of what we're creating along the way. And he'll just start creating these great moody vibes and sending us all these great sound elements that we can put together. And that's it. Aaron is just, as soon as we wrap production, he's got headphones on and he is laser focused. And I mean, I won't get any husband wife time from him for 2 weeks while he's in an edit. So I'll come and tap his shoulder at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, hey, can we stop working now? But I also like to work, because every time we can finish a movie or a short, that's something that really gets out into the world, and you never know which one is going to really pop for you. So it's almost like we're hooked. We just got to we want to keep doing it because we love telling these stories, and we really love hearing if people enjoyed them, what their reactions were. And then, more professionally in the space, we get a lot of feedback from our friends in the industry, and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. I love that you have your team, and you clearly trust the people you work with, and you have good chemistry. Obviously, all of that is so important, especially when you're making something like this, where there is a lot that goes into every single video. I mean, 2 weeks of I think some people might be shocked at that. 2 weeks of editing for a 10-minute video. That's a lot of work. And you said 4 16-hour days for filming. This is what it takes to make something like this. And I think this is why people are intimidated to make something like this for YouTube, because there's always a chance you're going to put it out there and it's going to get 50 views, and it's well, now what? So that kind of brings me to my next question here. So your kind of first film on here that was technically a camera test. It did really well, and that is awesome. But the kind of next stage of things that you guys have figured out is kind of monetizing everything. Obviously, you have YouTube ad revenue, but you also have a Patreon, you have sponsorships. Can you talk about how you've taken the attention this has gotten and turned it into a business?
For sure. So the moment that we realized what the parameters were to start monetizing the channel, that was goal number one. We have to start getting these short films to make their money back. And that was great. That was really great. So once 3 years ago, it was 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. I haven't heard that it changed. I think it's still something like that.
Same, yeah.
The same. Yeah. It was daunting when you're at 48 subscribers and you're like, all right, start sharing on Facebook, like mom, dad, granddad, let everybody come check it out. So that took a little while to get to the 1,000, but it wasn't crazy. I think it was within a couple months we were able to get there. And then the watch hours happened soon after, if not around the same time. We were really lucky to we kept putting more shorts out. So just the views just kept going, and that really helped us. So yeah, once we realized how to monetize the channel, that was the big one. And then, the sponsorships, you always want more. I'm sure I wonder if you feel the same way, or maybe you're drowning in sponsorships, like the dream. But it's hard because our channel is both our business, but it also needs to serve as like a portfolio of our cinematic work. So we really can't be tainting that. We can't be burning in ads into these short films. Yeah. These films really kind of need to live as portfolio pieces. So we do our behind the scenes, which would be great for more ad sponsors, but those views aren't as high as our shorts. So the brands always want to be on the shorts, and then we kind of have a little issue there. We did just recently do a fully sponsored video. We even call it the sponsorship because, people know what's up. People know when they're being advertised to, and hopefully they don't mind when you need to be paid for putting your work together. So we just leaned into that and made it kind of like a wink to the audience. Like, this is a sponsored video. Let's talk about that the whole time. And you just have to find a good balance for where you feel as a creator that you're not compromising what your ultimate goal is on the channel. For us, it's showing off our cinematic abilities, but we also need to be paid. So there's finding that balance, which I appreciate. And because I come from marketing, it just has to, that's just how it is. And yeah, I think the sponsorships, the ad revenue, and then I also sometimes luckily can move things to my Instagram because I have a decent little following over there. So sometimes brands will be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we're fine if you just put it on your Instagram. And I'm like, great, because I don't mind. I'll put anything on my Instagram, and that's fine. That's not my cinematic portfolio. So that's a fine place for ads.
Mm-hmm. And is this your full-time job at this point? Is it part-time? Like, what does your day-to-day look like?
So the YouTube channel is pretty much our day-to-day. That's where we're really always focusing. I do produce for outside projects outside of Social House Films. So, I get hired on to produce short films. We just completed a feature film. So we actually just flew back on Friday from the East Coast. We were filming a new horror feature film that we shot in all of March. And, that one's really fun. I think that we'll probably be looking at, a new infusion of revenue from that one later on this year. But that's filmmaking. Sometimes you don't really have consistency, as even if you're on the higher up side, you never know what your consistency of work is going to be. So you kind of always need to be planning for that budget wise for your own self, personally and professionally. And then just putting yourself out there for jobs. It was a few months ago, I just really started letting people know, I produce outside of Social House Films. If you need a producer, like, that's what I do all the time. And then all of a sudden the jobs just started coming in. So I was like, all right, excellent. Now I've got a little more cushion, and I've got the YouTube channel, and then I have my own private project. So it's been good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a fear people have. This is something I dealt with, like running my own YouTube channel. I was kind of worried that would people hire me? Like, would I be able to work outside of my channel? But, and your experience speaks to this, and mine as well. Yes, people will absolutely hire you. And especially you may have to freelance, but that's okay. There's a lot of freedom in that. You can kind of pick up jobs as they come, and work until maybe it's an ongoing thing, maybe it's a temporary thing. But yeah, the jobs do come in. When you have a portfolio like this, I mean, people are going to be very interested in working with you. So I think like putting your creativity and your this is clearly a passion project for you, putting that out there, I think it does show people that you are professional enough to follow through, and that
Mm-hmm.
it can lead to money in the long run as well, and being able to make a living, which obviously is so important.
It really
Hmm.
is, especially out here in California where everything's so expensive.
I know. I actually I moved out of California. I lived in San Diego for 7 years, grew up in the Bay, went to college in Santa
Nice.
Barbara. So like a proper California boy. Now I'm in Oregon. But yeah, it's pricey down there for sure, though it's getting pricey up here too. So you can't escape it unless maybe
Can't.
Montana. I don't know.
No, I think we'll just make more money. We'll just make it work by making more money.
Hmm.
When I first started trying to get hired out, it didn't happen straight away, which can probably be frustrating or dissuade some people. But just keep at it. Once people really start talking about your work and your work is really available to be seen, you will get hired. It absolutely will happen.
And how has this changed your life in like it's kind of a corny question, but like I think getting YouTube fame or even just success, like it for me at least, I felt like it was validating. Especially as somebody who, and I'm sure you know how this feels, like having a brain that it wants to, you could call it artistic or creative or whatever. There's it can be like annoying to deal with sometimes. Like making a living,
Mhm.
it can feel like I don't know. A lot of jobs maybe feel boring, so they need to be just the right ones, and that can be almost limiting, but then awesome at the same time. But then when you get this kind of validation where an audience starts kind of gathering around you, it feels like, oh yeah, I am pretty cool. That there's a reason my brain is like this. Like, did that give you a lot of confidence? Did it? I'm sure it changed kind of your day to day. I mean, clearly you spend a lot of time working on this now, but like, how has it made you change how you look at yourself, if at all?
Mm. I mean, for it absolutely that you hit the nail on the head with validation. Not necessarily I don't think we're all out here like needing the validation from people like please validate me, but somehow when you
Yeah, yeah.
see it, when you get the views and then you get these nice compliments on something that you worked so hard on per project, you really start to feel in your heart like, okay, I'm doing something and at the very least these people like it. So I'm going to keep doing this. I enjoy it and these people are enjoying it and I feel really good about that. So it's just on that level of feeling satisfied. It's as a filmmaker too, you get so much satisfaction just knowing people are watching your work, let
Yeah, yeah.
alone being able to read comments. So I mean, we're big like advocates of YouTube in a big way. Like people, maybe not everyone in the industry agrees with that. I don't really know. I don't really care. It worked for me, and I'm able to connect directly with an audience who's telling me what they think about the projects, and I feel great about that. So wherever people feel like cinematic work should live, that's great for them. I know that I've loved my experience with YouTube. It's changed my life. It's made me a more confident creator. It's made me a more confident producer. And then, yeah, I just love that I can open up the channel anytime and just scroll through comments and be like, oh, cool. Oh, they got that. Oh, they saw that little like wink to the audience that we did there. It just feels really, really
Mm.
gratifying.
Hmm. Beautiful. Like really, I love seeing stories like this. It warms my heart. Um, so my next question for you is like when you started succeeding, like what was it like with the handoff between you had a job before and the channel starts doing well? Was it kind of like your did you quit immediately? Did you decide to leave? Like, what did it look like transitioning from kind of a more traditional career to having this take up a lot of your time? Like that
Mm.
initial stage of things.
I mean, I'll be honest, it was a very murky time because I didn't have a regular job then either. So I was doing, I had, like
Mm.
I mentioned before, I had a little bit of an Instagram following. So I was able to still cobble together some brand deals for myself there. But it's not that was not regular work. That was like lean. I'm talking lean times.
Mm.
So no matter what my Instagram looked like, I was still like, gotta, stretching that dollar constantly. I would do gigs like walk dogs, like literally anything that I could do just to get myself to the point where I was able to do this more full time. I was down. There was no job too small. There was no ego there. I was like, I will do it. I will walk dogs. I will watch dogs. I will do this brand that I don't even know anything about. Sure, whatever. I was really just all to this path. And even this path, though, I don't want to like mislead anyone. In film and probably many other industries, but I'm mostly familiar with this in film. You don't always know when your consistent work is going to happen. So you need to be like that old adage of like the grasshopper and the cricket, or so whatever, the ant and the cricket, where it's like you need to be thinking for a long lean winter, because
Yeah.
yes, sometimes the jobs are going to rain down on you and sometimes it's going to be really bleak. So I went through that a few years ago, and it was rough. And then even now, if things are lean, I'll pick up a job on Rover, no problem. I'm not too big for it. Also, filmmaking is pretty expensive, and we tend
Mm.
to mostly fund all of these shorts ourselves. So, if I really just have to tell that cool story and it's going to cost me more than usual, then that concessions have to be made. So, hopefully, things are getting to a more steady place. But I don't know if anyone in the industry ever has like absolute consistency, unless they're able to control their own audience, which is something that, not to control in that way, but have your own audience and your own sort of understanding of what your monthly income would be, which is again why we're such advocates of YouTube. You have a general idea of what you're going to make on YouTube, and you're like, okay, got it. So I can look forward to that likely next month. It's probably not going to go away unless some giant news article changes that YouTube ad revenue.
Hmm. Right. And so before I get into that question, I do want to touch on how important that is. What you mentioned, being able to kind of live lean, especially if you are in an artistic field like this, because yeah, it is unreliable. Even artistic inspiration can be unreliable. I mean, it can be ephemeral. Like sometimes it just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't come. Having a team can be very helpful with that, but even that can be sort of hard to predict, and even that can be frustrated, let alone actual jobs themselves coming to you. So being able to live lean is definitely a very useful skill. So I think as far as kind of succeeding in this realm, I feel like that is important, is to kind of live humbly, because that is going to allow you to take bigger risks and try things. So I'm really glad you talked about that, and we're kind of honest about that, because I do feel it's important. We're kind of we're getting towards the end here. So I wanted to ask you, though, kind of a philosophical question. Like,
Hmm.
why horror? Like, why do people like horror? I guess, why do you like horror? Because it's horrifying. And there is something compelling about it, but like, it seems kind of counterintuitive that it's one of the most popular genres. So why do you think people like it, and why do you like it?
I have an answer that's on the viewer side, how I enjoy receiving horror, and then on the filmmaking side. So on just the viewer side, probably the same reason that anyone, I'm actually terrified of roller coasters. I won't go on them, but why people like any sort of thrill, you're technically safe, but you're giving your body that adrenaline rush. So I think that that's probably why people love horror. They also get to explore versions of themselves that just we don't do as a society. We shouldn't do as a society, like murder and
Mm-hmm.
torture. But I think that that's like the permission slip that your mind can go there safely, and there's really no judgment to watch a horror movie. It's very just status quo. And then on the filmmaking side, I absolutely love creating horror for multiple reasons. One, the creation of the production is like being a magician. So, for example, on this movie I was just on, we were doing this gag where this one character, this evil character, it gets a screwdriver like stabbed into his neck, and yeah, so I get to now on set decide. I planned this beforehand. How am I going to create this gag? I need to make sure that I'm going to have to order a screwdriver that detaches from the metal part, and then use like latex and Prozade and some sort of contusion makeup to put here, And then I needed to create some sort of like wire structure so that it would be there. Gravity wouldn't rip the handle off before we started filming. So that's one of the reasons I really love horror, is it's constantly solving these little puzzles to give magic tricks to your audience. So I absolutely love it for the creative ingenuity, and like anything, a lot of things can work in horror. You know, I used old brisket that I had in the fridge with red dyed corn syrup to create these blood elements for this other part of the movie, because the brisket had exactly the right tendon structure. There was some fat on it, so it had exactly like the consistency I needed. And then the corn syrup had exactly the viscosity of that level of like blood that was coming from that portion of the body.
Wow.
Not all blood is the same. And so I was like, all right, that's perfect. And I just made it, and I was like, perfect, boom, there's your blood element. And it happened really fast, thank goodness, because we were really tight that day. So that, I love it for the physical like creation. And then when I watch someone watching something scary that I've created, I get to see them enjoying it. I get to literally see them reacting or jumping or closing their eyes or screaming, and like getting that visceral reaction from the audience is just the chef's kiss to all the hard work. That's what I'm looking for.
Like, why is it fun for you to kind of scare people? Or obviously it's sort of like this, the audience signs up to get scared. That seems like kind of a funny relationship you have with the audience, where like you're making this thing and they know it's going to be terrifying, or they hope it's going to be terrifying. Like why is that entertaining for you? You know, you talked about kind of the problem solving aspect, and there's the aspect of it where we're kind of exploring the darker sides of human nature, but like seeing the audience reaction, like is it like what does that ignite in you when you see them do that?
I mean, that ignites that validation that I'm, hoping to receive from my audience. If I can see them get scared, first of all, they come in, they're already trusting me they're going to watch my movie. And if they were just sitting there like flat, I'd be like, well, did you like it? But they're sitting there like, oh no, oh. And you're just like, yes, thank you so much. It's that gold sticker on your homework. It's like, this is what you worked so hard on, and here is your visual validation that you succeeded in scaring people. That's what people are asking for when they come see a horror movie. Well, can you scare me? I see so much all the time. I've seen it all. Can you scare me? Can you tell me a new story to scare me in a different way? And I say, challenge accepted. I'm here for it, and I'm going to scare you. I'm going to do my best.
Hell yeah. I love that. I think it's beautiful. I love how well this is going. And Social House Films, my pronunciation is what's really terrifying here. Social House Films, everybody. Victoria, you have been awesome. I have loved chatting with you. Is there anything else you'd like to mention to the people?
Oh, I'm just really happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And also, you have such a great voice. I can see why you do so well here. So thank you again for having me.
Much appreciated. With that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. It's been a good one. I will see whoever you are in the next one. Bye, everybody.